Chapter 21. Brent performed a final inspection of his Armani suit before he stepped out of the limo. It wouldn't do for him to show up in public for the first time in a month, covered in lint. The driver opened the door and Brent blinked against the flashing lights. This he didn't really miss. He unfolded himself from the back seat and stood with a smile on his face. Attending this award show was like any other acting role. He would flash his brightest grin to appear he was enjoying himself, even though his heart was miles away with Sam. "Mr. McKasson, when are you coming out of retirement?" A voice yelled to him as he walked up the red carpet toward the entrance of the theater. "Will there be another Night Ranger?" another called. "Is it true you've gotten back together with Trisha Daniels?" Though he had ignored the rest, that one gave him pause. He was almost to the door. He should just let it go, but he didn't want it getting back to Sam. "Actually, that one is true, isn't it, darling?" His heart stopped as he heard Trisha's voice. How had she gotten here? With a feeling of dread, he turned, and she sidled up to him. Her low-cut dress left little to the imagination as it hugged her frame. To make matters worse, the dress had a slit up the thigh that reached almost to her hip. Sam would never wear something so revealing, and he forced his face to remain impassive. "What are you doing here?" he hissed out of the corner of his mouth. "Smile!" She batted her fake lashes at him. "You wouldn't want to put out a bad image now, would you?" Anger seethed inside Brent. Trisha knew the delicate game too well. She knew he couldn't react now or the rag magazines would splash his face all over the headlines and claim he had some anger issue or pathological lying problem. His image would be ruined. "I don't know what your game is, but we are not getting back together." In response to his cold whisper, Trisha placed a hand on his arm, threw back her head, and laughed. "You're so silly." Her voice was loud and carried to the photographers. Bulbs flashed around them. He clenched his jaw and plastered a fake smile on his face. With her arm linked through his, Brent led the way into the theater. As soon as the doors closed behind them, he removed her arm and turned daggers on her. "What do you think you are doing? How did you even get here?" Trisha smiled up at him and batted her lashes again. "I guess whoever is in charge of this event still thought we were together because an invitation arrived at my house. Don't you see, Brent? It means we belong together." "It means someone made a mistake, Trisha. That is all." She shrugged. "Whatever. It worked in my favor. Now all the tabloids believe we are back together, and as soon as your little girlfriend," she scrunched her nose in disgust, "sees this, you'll come running back to me." "That's where you're wrong, Trisha. Sam watches little TV, and she would never watch this." A haughty chuckle escaped Trisha's blood-red lips. "Maybe not on her own, but I've paid good money to make sure she watches tonight." Brent narrowed his eyes at her, trying to make sense of her words. "What did you do?" "Just made sure you realize we belong together." "The only thing you've made me realize is that I should have taken a restraining order out against you long ago. Something I plan to remedy as soon as this night is over." He took a deep breath to calm the fire raging through his body. His hands curled into fists at his side, and for the first time he saw a flicker of realization spark in Trisha's eyes. "Now get out of my sight, and don't come near me the rest of the night." Trisha opened her mouth to protest, but thought better of it. "You'll change your mind," she called as she wandered into the auditorium. After another few deep breaths, Brent uncurled his fists. He needed to contact Sam. She was still working with Connor in Dallas, so the only way Trish could have guaranteed Sam was watching the show was if she had somehow gotten to Connor. He extricated his cell from his pocket and punched in her number, but the phone went to voicemail. "Sam, it's Brent. I don't know exactly what Trish did, but whatever you see tonight is not the whole story. Call me as soon as you can." His heart sank as he hung up the phone. Was it too late? Had she already seen? Surely Sam would know it was a setup, wouldn't she? But she was still recovering from a lack of trust from her last relationship, and he knew that was the one area she was still unsure about. With a sigh, he tucked the phone back in his pocket and headed into the auditorium. There was nothing more he could do now but paste a smile on his face and pretend everything was okay. A knock at the office door where Sam was working grabbed her attention. Connor stood in the doorway. "Hey, you want to get some dinner?" She looked back over the form she was filling out. True to his word, Connor had kept her busy, not only with the used cars he had purchased, but also with filling in at the shop. However, she only had a few cars left to inspect, so she figured she'd be able to return to Soda Spurs by the end of the next week. "Sure, I can finish these tomorrow." "Great, I know of a great place." A smile lit up Connor's face and sent his blue eyes twinkling. "As long as you understand this is not a date, Connor." While Sam appreciated the temporary job he had offered her, the last few days had been uncomfortable, with Connor constantly bringing up their high school past and declaring how much he missed those times. Connor held his hands out and ducked his head. "I promise, just dinner." "Fine, let me just gather my things." Sam tucked her cell phone inside her small purse. The only contents other than her phone were her keys, wallet, and a pair of sunglasses. She was not a believer in big, bulky bags that pulled on your shoulders or whacked others when you moved in crowded places. "Let's just take my car." Connor led her to his Mustang convertible. "I can drop you back off after dinner." Sam hesitated, not only due to the close proximity of the car, but also for the inability to get away if needed. But Connor had made no move yet, and it did seem silly to take two cars. "Sounds fine." A few minutes later, Connor pulled into the parking lot of a casual restaurant. Not what Sam had been expecting, but at least it wouldn't be a candlelit dinner. "Welcome to Charlie's." The hostess greeted them as they entered. "Thank you. Can you sit us over there?" Connor pointed to the corner where a small, secluded table sat. Sam swallowed a sigh. It looked like he had a romantic night planned after all. At least there was a TV nearby. Maybe that could at least create a diversion. "Of course, follow me." The waitress handed them menus and took their drink order before scurrying off. Sam placed her purse on the table beside her and ran her hands down her thighs. Then the awkward silence descended. Sam cleared her throat and looked up at Connor. "I only have a few cars to finish. I should be out of your hair by Friday." "You're not in my hair, Sam. You can stay as long as you'd like." "I appreciate the offer, Connor, but I need to get back to Soda Spurs. I have my own shop to run." Connor rolled his eyes. "You mean you have to get back to him, don't you? You know it will never work out between you. The two of you are too different. But you and me, we have the same interests, Sam. You could move to Dallas and be my main mechanic. We could run the dealership together." While that once may have been a dream come true, Sam realized what she missed the most this week was home and Brent. She had thought maybe her opinion of big cities would have changed, but it hadn't. In fact, the last week had reinforced her opinion. She hated the traffic and the fact that people barely spoke to each other, much less knew each other's names. The waitress arrived with their drinks, stalling Sam's response. But after they gave their order, Sam looked up at Connor again. "Connor, I appreciate all you've done for me. Really. I do, but I don't belong here. And I know you may not care for Brent, but I do, and I miss him."
"What if he doesn't miss you?"
Connor's eyes glanced up at the television screen near them. "What are you talking about? Of course he misses me. He calls me every night."
"Must be a ruse then, because it looks like he's back together with his ex. Isn't that him?"
He pointed up to the TV and Sam turned to follow his finger. Coverage of the Action Hero Award show was on, and sure enough, there was Brent smiling on the red carpet. Sam's heart fell, though, as she saw the blonde in the skin-tight dress on his arm. Brent said something to her, and the woman laid her hand on his arm and laughed. The smile she shot at the camera was the one of a woman in love. Sam pushed back her chair and stood. The need to vomit surged in her stomach, and the room began to close in. She needed air. "Excuse me, I'll be right back." She scanned the area for the restroom and hurried that direction, holding on to the backs of chairs when the dizziness threatened to take over. When she finally reached the restroom, she pushed open the door, delighted to see a small couch in the corner. Her knees turned liquid just as she reached the couch, and she fell onto it like a lead brick. How could this be happening? He knew about Greg, and he'd promised he would never do that to her. Yet there he was, smiling and laughing with a done-up blonde at the same award show he had invited her to. What would he have done if she had accepted his invitation? Would he have come up with some reason not to go? Sam dropped her head onto her hands and let her shoulders shake with her tears. Connor was right. What was she doing with some billionaire who obviously hadn't given up the lifestyle yet? If the chesty blonde was his type, what on earth was he doing with her? Was she just some distraction or maybe a bet with his buddies back home? When her tears finally ceased and cold, hard anger took sadness's place, Sam pushed herself up and shuffled to the sink. A look in the mirror confirmed her fears. Her eyes were red and puffy, and her face was blotchy. She turned the water on and cupped her hands under the flow. Then she splashed the water on her face. After a few pats with a paper towel, Sam glanced in the mirror again. It was obvious she had been crying, but it was better. She took a deep breath and sent up a prayer for strength before returning to the table. Their food had arrived while she was gone. Without a word, Sam sat down and bowed her head to pray over the food. When she raised her head again, Connor spoke.
"Sam, I'm so sorry."
"Stop." She shook her head at him. "I don't want to talk about it any longer tonight. We will eat, and then you will take me back to my car. That is all." She knew it wasn't his fault, but she didn't want his pity. Nor did she want to encourage him to pursue her now that she was apparently single. Again. She wanted nothing to do with men at this moment, and if he were a good friend, he would understand that. Brent checked his watch for the 20th time that night. Time appeared to be dragging, and he really needed to get out of here and get back to Sam before he couldn't change her mind. And the winner of Action Hero in a Series is Brent McKasson as Derek McCloud in the Night Ranger films. Brent looked up at the sound of his name. Around him, people were smiling and clapping. One woman at his table waved her hand, motioning for him to stand and take the stage. This was an amazing moment, but all Brent could think about was Sam. On autopilot, he pushed his chair back and made his way up to the stage. He shook the presenter's hand with his right and held on to the gleaming gold statue with his left. Slowly, he turned to face the crowd. As he looked over the sea of faces, he realized he didn't care about this award. He didn't even care if his book ever got published. All he wanted was Sam. His hand darted inside his coat pocket and touched the velvet box. He knew it was fast, but he loved Sam, and he had wanted to propose to her when she returned from Dallas. Now, thanks to Trisha, he wondered if that were even possible. "You need to make your speech," the presenter whispered to him, and smiled out at the audience as cameras flashed. Suddenly, Brent had an idea.
"Here, hold this."
He shoved the statue back into the surprised woman's hands and pulled out the box.
"First off, let me say thank you for this award. Being Derek McLeod was a high point in my life until a few months ago. Then I met an amazing woman named Sam Jenkins. She couldn't be here tonight, but I hope she's still watching."
He opened the ring case and held it up. Gasps filled the room.
"Sam, I know we come from two different worlds, but that is what I love about you. You keep me grounded, and I know that I want that for the rest of my life. I'm coming for you, Sam, but I wanted you to see this, to know what's real. Will you marry me?"
He knew, of course, that Sam couldn't answer. Heck, she probably wasn't even still watching if she had been in the first place. But he hoped that with the cheers and clapping, the TV producers would find it newsworthy and run it several times. Everyone loved a Cinderella story. That's what Julia always said. Brent turned back to the presenter who was dabbing at the corner of her eyes with her free hand. "That was beautiful," she sniffed. "This Sam is a lucky woman. I hope she says yes."
"Me too."
Brent accepted the award from her once again, and then he walked off the stage and back toward his table. But he didn't stop there. He wasn't up for any more awards, and the moment was now his. Dallas and his future awaited him. He walked past the gaping mouths, pushed open the entrance doors, and stepped into the night air.